Hello, it's Toaster Party, and today I'm going to talk about what my picks are for the 5 best Mark of the Machine cards for Pauper. This is an incredibly powerful and interesting set, even at the Pauper level. So without further ado, let's start talking about new Pauper cards with number 5, Moment of Truth. For one generic and a blue, you get an instant that says look at the top 3 cards of your library, put one of those cards into hand, one into yard, and one on the bottom of your library. So what makes this stand out amongst the massive swaths of card and selection pieces we have in the format is the fact that it puts one to hand and one into yard. The decks that I see possibly wanting this are decks that are picky about what they're putting into yard. Say something like a Reanimator deck. And while most Reanimator decks right now are in the Rakdos colors, this one does put up an interesting argument for trying to play a more controlling version of that deck and instead go for Dimir Reanimator. So let's move on now to number 4, Zhalfirin Shapecraft. For one generic and a blue, you get an instant that says target creature has base and power toughness 4/3 until end of turn and draw a card. We've seen a lot of very similar cards to this in the past, but this one is far more interesting in that it is cheaper, and it's more on curve for playable pump spells in the format, while also still cantripping. The type of deck that I could possibly see wanting to use this is something like Infect, where it likes to use really powerful pump spells, and this one gives a pretty big boost while also giving you a card, or an aggressive blue deck that wants to take an opponent out quickly but also doesn't want to lose advantage. Let's move on now to number 3, Atraxa's Fall. For one generic and a green, you get a sorcery that says destroy target artifact, battle, enchantment, or creature with flying. We're not going to be destroying any battles with this anytime soon. What this card does stand for is that it's a cheaper version of Plummet. The one downside is that this card is a sorcery, that card is an instant, but if you weren't using Plummet mostly as an instant already, then this possibly is just a strictly better card to play. Let's move now to number 2, Burning Sun's Fury. For generic and red, you get an instant with Convoke that says up to 2 target creatures each get +2/+0 and gain haste until end of turn. This is very similar to a card that sees play in other formats called Invigorated Rampage, but that card's not a common. And the difference between that card and this card is that that one allows you to target one card and give it +4 and trample until end of turn, or give it +2/+0 to 2 cards and trample until end of turn. So while this card is very similar, it does give it a more limited effect, as you can't put all the power onto one creature, and it gives a far less important keyword, that being haste, as most of the strongest heroic cards already have some form of haste. While the Convoke is nice, it is still a pretty powerful card that you might want to consider for your Boros heroic decks. Let's move now to number 1, and if it isn't already obvious, the card is Wrenn's Resolve. This card is just Reckless Impulse. Reckless Impulse is a great card, and with the amount of really powerful red impulse effects, it really makes me think that someone in the research and development team really likes playing Red Burn in Pauper. Well, thank you all for watching. I hope you leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and I hope you all have an excellent day.